All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me for the very last panel of the German esports. So how did you like it so far? I'm sorry. It's turn on. Just start.
Oh yeah, okay. Hi everybody. Yeah, I think it's been great. Yeah. And I know you're all just staying here for this last panel and not for the beer afterwards. But you know, a day like today makes me sad because I realized that I made a big mistake in not carrying on with my German after I left school many years ago. And what's even worse is I was actually good at German in school. I was probably one of the best in my class, but I struggled with some of the German language sessions today, and it was obvious to me that there were lots of very interesting discussions going on that I would have liked to listen to. But thank you for the bits of English sessions as well, and thank you for having us here.
Okay, Chester, it is so nice having you here from the British Esports Association. Could you please quickly sum up what the British Esports Association is?
Yeah, so we were founded in 2016 with authority from the British government. We're a not-for-profit organisation. We really focus on grassroots and amateurs, so up to 19 years old. We have a member of our British Parliament on our board. We have the various stakeholders of our ecosystem of esports, and we are really promoting esports as a beneficial activity. Under our UK law, we're classified as a game, like chess and bridge is a game in our country and not a sport. So we work with the sports organisations in the UK, but we've got a very good positioning in what we do.
Okay, thank you so much. And Samy, the French esports is, I mean, France is a country where a lot of successful and international successful pro players are from. How important is esports in France?
Oh, it depends. It's close to the German market, and this is why in 2016 we decided to create our own organization that would gather all the stakeholders from the whole industry. And this is something we are really proud of. In 2016, then we have been recognized by the government, and our members are publishers, promoters, and players. Among the promoters, you have the agencies, you have the promoters like ESL, well, I would, what about to say Faceit, but no, Faceit is not in France, DreamHack, these kind of guys, and the clubs are in promoters as well. So we have 12 members of the board, and we all vote together around pretty much all the topic that goes close to the esports industry.
I mean, yesterday more than a dozen national esports federations and stakeholders from all around Europe met exactly here at the Kulturbrauerei in Berlin and discussing the European future of esports. Hans, I mean, as the host of this this day, what was your takeaway?
Well, we actually invited for the European esports meeting Berlin, following up a meeting in Paris and before in Lausanne, coming from the IOC, where we actually took away that it wasn't only about sports meeting esports, but also esports meeting esports, and from that point on, we connected throughout Europe, and we took our internationality very seriously, and brought together a lot of European federations, having very different approaches to esports in their respective country, in their structure. So Samy just explained how it works in France, and Chester how it works in the UK, and it's the same thing with Germany, and we saw that we all had, there were 15 federations from different nations in the room, and we saw that there were a lot of similarities in terms of what do we want developing esports in our respective countries, but there are also a lot of structural differences, and that was an interesting takeaway to work from that, because we focused on what actually unites us, and that was, I think that was a great thing.
And the European idea of working together towards a certain goal seems very deeply implemented into the foundation of the ESBD.
It really is. So we have identified as internationality as one of our core values, saying that esports is a transnational and international phenomenon, and much more than any other sports are. So there's only one mouse click we have to do to just join a game full of international players, and there are coming friendships from that that are like, I traveled to the United States knowing no one there, just relying on some guy I met in an online game to provide me as a host, and this was like, I was flying like 2,000 miles or something, and didn't know what to expect, but this is one of the deepest friendships I made so far in my life, and this was coming from esports, right? So that is one of our core values, and I think we should represent that on a structural level as well, and the European level is the next closest thing to or the next step we could take from coming from national federations from Europe to structure this.
All right, and Dara, your organization represents publishers on a European level.
Yeah.
You're running a working group for esports. What is the main goal for ISFE in esports, in European esports?
Before I come to that, perhaps I should just explain who ISFE is, because not everybody in the audience may know what ISFE is. Maybe you do. We are the trade association representing the video game industry in Europe, and we have 15 major video game publishing companies and console makers as members, together with, I think it's 13 now, national trade associations covering 18 European countries. And of course, they have hundreds of game publishers and game developers as members, as well as many companies involved in esports. We have this very broad network, and we really started, coming on to your question, we really started looking at esports just a couple of years ago, when there were increasing calls around Europe, in various countries in Europe, for greater regulation of esports, and our members started to discuss it at meetings, at ISFE meetings, and we decided to create an ISFE esports working group. And one of the first things we did was actually to commission legal research into the regulation of esports in Europe. Actually, it was in 7 countries in Europe, plus the United States, because we did it with our sister organization, the Entertainment Software Association in Washington, and looking at regulation of esports and looking at the treatment of esports as sports. And so we felt we needed some sort of good local legal advice about those issues, and we received that advice last spring. And then in the summer of last year, our board at ISFE decided that we needed to broaden our role in the esports space, and decided to create an esports group. So we have an esports working group internally for our ISFE members, but we decided to broaden the scope by inviting other stakeholders in the esports space to come and join us. So we now have we have got Twitch, we have ESL as members of that esports group, and also Epic Games, who are not actually an ISFE member. And that's sort of an initial core group that we've brought together to try to reach some sort of common understanding on issues of importance in the esports sector, and to try to be the voice, if you like, of the esports industry towards the European institutions. We've got 20 plus years of dealing with the European institutions, whether it's the Commission, the Council, or the Parliament, and at every opportunity when we go in to meet the officials in those institutions, we try to talk about esports along with all sorts of other things. So we're working now on a work plan to try and decide what are the issues we need this.
Could you give us an
esports group.
example for an issue that has to be addressed?
Well, integrity is an issue I think we have to address. Diversity, which you had a panel on earlier. And for all the women in the room, I apologize that us guys are such jerks.
That's not what we said. That's not what we said.
No, but it's true. Yeah, I mean, gambling is an issue. Betting in esports is an issue.
Yes.
So these are all things that we're starting to really discuss now, and we're hoping to reach a common understanding within our own small group. And vis-a-vis what Hans was talking about, Hans invited ISFE to participate in part of the meeting that we had yesterday, and we were very happy to come and share our views with the national federations, because we want to cooperate with those national esports federations in advancing an esports message to policymakers, and we think there is space for the federation, esports federation model that Hans is advocating, alongside our own group representing different interests. I don't think that should be a problem going forward.
All right, thank you so much. And Samy, France Esports brought together different stakeholders from esports, from the esports ecosystem, uniting players, publishers, and devs, as well as organizers. And do you think that this structure should be a role model for future European organizations?
Well, definitely, and this is what I'm trying to defend, and this was one of the huge topics yesterday. So yeah, no, I'm not trying to be the standard cocky French, trying to force something. So no, I really do think that it's a model that can work, because it has been working for 2 years now. We have issues like in any country, but we recognize first the publishers as the IP owner, and I would say the closest things to a federation. This is why we need to work with them. So we got tons of problems, and actually some of them are the same. Dara just listed 5 minutes ago: integrity, mixity, inclusive esports. We want to fight against sedentarity, but also the image of the player itself, because it's sometimes as bad as it can be in Germany. We are fortunately not having the same problems that the title for minus 16 players have, and we have to hide everything around the curtain, but it's close to. Each time we had a strike or what's that, attentat, what we had in Nice.
My French is not good enough.
So yeah, well, sorry, I was looking for a word. Each time we had an attack in France, it has a huge repercussion on the ecosystem,
course, yeah.
and this is something we are trying to prevent. And this is why, starting 2019, the government and France Esports had 5 workshops on all the topics I mentioned and more. And at the end, there will be a huge assessment, and the government will affect an envelope that will enable the industry to grow faster.
And of course, such a work group is a beautiful way of sharing experiences, of sharing solutions to problems that one already worked through. And what else does the participant of this work group benefit from, Hans?
Well, if we have a look what a potential task list of a European Esports Federation could look like, there's definitely the one side of unified representation towards the political stakeholders in Europe, right? So we have elections coming up, and I don't know if Britain is going to participate or not. We will see that, but it will definitely have an influence if we put esports on the agenda of the upcoming European Parliament, where it is right now basically underrepresented or even non-existent right now. So there is no European awareness from the political side, and I think we should raise awareness as we do in our respective countries to just explain what esports is, and on the other hand, what a European Esports Federation can do is being a platform for the national federations as well as the stakeholder organizations to, on the one hand, share knowledge, share experiences, as you said, but on the other hand, to have a system of a very, very mutual conflict resolution, to talk, to have a dialogue, to see stuff like interests that may oppose each other, to talk about this first before taking any measurements, right? So you have to integrate everyone from the esports ecosystem on a European level into such an organization to have the leading voice at the end towards a player's representation, towards an organizational esports representation.
All right. Chester, you probably can't hear that topic anymore, and you're probably sick of speaking about it, but well, yeah, I can imagine there it's the same for you. It's even worse for you guys than for us, it seems. And, well, the communication that goes about it, because it is, of course, a matter that involves all of us. And yeah, let me be blunt about it. Your country is facing a chaotic Brexit. It's not happening tomorrow. We got lucky there, but it's going to happen sooner or later. And what will it change for British esports?
Yeah, so I think the biggest impact will be on our major events when pro players are coming in, and it's been a big argument over the last 2 years about should esports become a sport in the UK, because it would help getting visas from European...
Oh, ESL1 Birmingham got lucky on this one.
Yeah. So talking about visas.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting is over the last 2 years, we've had about 15 players blocked from coming to the UK, and it wasn't until actually about 2 months ago that our government confirmed why they had been blocked. It wasn't actually the fact that they were esports players, it was the fact that a number of these people actually were on the European blacklist because they had been hackers when they were younger. So actually that whole argument about the visa thing isn't an argument anymore, but there is a concern that I know we had a CSGO major last year at Wembley Arena. We had 30,000 people, we had 44 million people watching it live. The people organising Face It have decided not to do it in the UK because they're concerned about Brexit. So I think at the pro level, it will have an impact. Obviously, we've got another 6 months now of, who knows what's going to happen. But internally, obviously, we're just cracking on doing what we're doing in schools. We're very lucky. We actually have very good government support. I report into the Minister of Digital. She is very pro esports. Our Minister of Health, our Secretary of State of Health, Matt Hancock, is very pro esports. And for us, esports is not only about the pro level, but it's helping children in schools who might not be good at sport, who might not be part of a community. And we're doing a lot of research. And I think for me about the European Association is we can share that research that we're doing with Oxford University about there's no link with violence and violent gaming, that certain esports and moderation can help with social impact. So that's, to me, is very important. And Hans, and our friends in Samy and our friends in France have started a great initiative. And the last thing is the IOC, did pull us all together. They've got an esports and gaming liaison group. The next meeting is in June at E3, and they're just looking at it and they're trying to work out is what values in sport can come in esports and vice versa. And I'm still involved in sport. I've been involved in sport for 25 years, so I think both are beneficial, but I think working together collaboratively is really essential.
How does the British esports community position itself in remains of leave or stay?
We're all Remainers, so yeah.
That would be nice.
Anyone with a brain was a Remainer, yeah.
He said it, not me. Yes, how much does we already spoke about how much the esports athletes and of course the stakeholders profit from staying within the European Union. And Europe is bigger than just EU countries, and but it's esports. Is esports a movement that strengthens the European vision, the idea behind Europe? And what potential do you see for esports transporting those values?
I think Chester just put it right there, right? You are Remainers, just because there is an integral European core to the core of the identity of young players and young e-sport athletes and young people in general, because we are so used to profit from European freedoms, from the freedom of traveling and moving all around Europe without anyone restricting us. And we have in the game itself, as well as in our personal lives, we don't think in borders anymore. So we're thinking in going to France or going to the UK in just like, this is another region. I can reach this with the same plane I reach Cologne or Munich, right? It's just another part of just freedom that I have. And it's the same thing within the games. I just click onto the European server, and it's the only physical limitations we might have, because the ping goes down going outside on an up. I'm sorry, the ping goes up going outside of the European servers. But this is the only limitations we have, and I think that's reducing borders in our heads.
Yeah, but. I mean, it seems like we're all on the same page here, and we're working towards the same goals as the nation itself. So, isn't it time for an European Esports Federation?
Definitely,
yes.
we were here for that. To the extent of what
Will we have that at some point?
That's very complicated. That's another topic. So for now, we had 3 meetings, and the only thing we identified are our differences. So we definitely need to achieve something more concrete.
That's a good thing.
And this is why we will meet each other normally in Switzerland in a bit more than 1 month.
In Switzerland.
Yeah, there's a meeting in Lausanne on the 28th to follow up. I mean, one thing for me is important, just talking about the sport and competition. We all love each other as Europe, but we love playing Germany at football, we love playing France at rugby. And I think with esports, something that I want to personally ambition is to have the best school in England or Britain play the best school in Germany to create these heroes. And we need more heroes in esports. And at the moment, in our country, we don't have that. And I think for me, healthy competition is important from a European level.
I mean, yes, go ahead.
I think it's just important to have a European voice, right? Coming from players, coming from stakeholders, from the whole ecosystem. And I think the whole meeting yesterday showed, I like to say the sentence, I said it at IOC and I still stand for it. It's all about creating an ecosystem rather than creating an ecosystem. We are combined, if we are combine our forces, and if we are combine our knowledge and share that, we can grow much stronger ecosystems and national federations in our respective countries, because we are just profiting from this very, very deep network we can create at the end.
So what is stopping you?
Sorry?
So what is stopping you?
So it's always about the details.
Yeah, it always
we had a
is.
60 to 80 page reader yesterday. Made in a last-minute attempt from a great guy, Christian. Great work, and we presented it to everyone, and it's full of details about membership criteria, about tasks we should apply to, what should we do, what shouldn't we do. But in the end, we have to be aware of the similarities we share, right? Like the things that unites us, and we have to work through the details. It's a work in progress, and if you sit with 15 organizations from different national backgrounds, from sometimes different national cultures, and 5 stakeholder organizations with different commercial interests, this is really tough.
I can
This
imagine.
is really tough.
And
But
you know
we will
what else
work
is
through
tough?
this.
I don't know who scheduled 30 minutes for this panel, because my volunteer is going crazy over there telling me that we're almost done. But Dara, I think you want to add something to that?
Very briefly, because
Yes.
I won't hold people back from their beers. Me particularly. sorry, me particularly as an Irishman. Yeah, I think, yeah, Hans said it very, very well. And I don't know whether the federations will be able to eventually form a European esports federation or not. But if they do, you know, we will probably, you know, be in an observer capacity in that federation, and we'll certainly cooperate and continue the dialogue with the members of it if it does eventually emerge. Just very last point, we were talking about, or Hans was talking about raising awareness of esports amongst policymakers. I think that's one of the things we at ISFE want to do as well. But we have to be very careful because, you know, European politicians have a temptation to regulate things, particularly new industries. And, you know, esports is still, despite its growth, it's still a very young industry. And we have to be very careful what sort of regulation gets proposed. You know, we advocate self-regulation, needless to say. So, you know, when we raise awareness of esports, we have to be careful what we say and what we ask for, because you may not like what you actually get.
Okay. So, I don't know, Samy, if you have anything to add to that?
Not really. I think, well, as everyone said, we're in a work in progress, and we are looking forward for the next session in Switzerland.
Okay.
And but we like tough topics. This is why each time we had some new countries, and this is why in the end we just realized we have even more differences.
That's why we're all in esports, right? Because
this is also what defines Europe. We are a huge and awesome territory, but it's so fragmented.
Yeah.
It's the same here.
But that's also the beauty of it. Gentlemen, it is time to close this one out. Thank you so much. You've been an amazing audience. Please give it up one more time for our last panel of the day. Thank you so much.